Monkey D. Luffy is the heart and soul of One Piece, with even Shanks himself betting on the young pirate's success at the beginning of the story. But what would the One Piece story look like if we took Luffy out of the equation? In today's video, let's explore what would happen if Luffy died at Marineford instead of Ace. I'll be covering two different storylines in this video, depending on whether or not someone else in the One Piece world inherits Luffy's Hito Hito no Mi model Nika. But before that, let's set up everything needed for this story to work. Luffy has to die at Marineford, so probably the most critical moment in the original story needs to change. In the canon timeline, when Akainu was about to land a direct hit on Luffy with his magma fist, Ace arrived just in time to shield his little brother with his own body. But what if Ace was just a few seconds too late? Perhaps he was held back by another marine officer who tried to apprehend him, or perhaps Akainu didn't spend as much time loading up his punch. Whatever the reason, Ace doesn't reach Luffy in time, and Akainu's fist punches clean through the Straw Hat captain's chest. The world watches in horror as Monkey D. Luffy, the grandson of the hero Garp and son of the revolutionary dragon, dies on the battlefield of Marineford. The immediate aftermath would be catastrophic, as Ace goes absolutely berserk, his flames burning hotter than they ever have before, as he tries desperately to reach his brother's body. But it's too late at this point, and Marco and Jinbei rush forward to take Ace away before he picks a fight with Akainu. Shanks arrives moments later and stops the war, but this time the aftermath of Marineford is far more devastating for the captain of the Red Hair Pirates. He bet everything on this boy, and gave up his arm to save Luffy's life all those years ago. Now Shanks' hopes of Luffy bringing a new dawn are completely shattered. It took all of Garp's self-control not to kill Akainu then and there on the battlefield. And in the original timeline, he retired from active duty after the Marineford War. In this time, Luffy's death completely disillusions Garp, and he doesn't even agree to work as an instructor at the Marine Academy. But the most important question following Luffy's death is this: what happens to the Devil Fruit? Now, we know that the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika always goes in search of its destined user, so the first timeline is one where it doesn't find Luffy's successor in this generation. This means the Nika fruit doesn't reincarnate at all in the current timeline, leaving the remaining emperors to search for the One Piece and fight the world government. This leaves the Straw Hat Pirates in an impossible situation, because without Luffy, they never gain the recognition as a Yonko crew. Here's where Zoro steps up, because despite never wanting to be a captain, he understands that Luffy wouldn't want them to give up. The crew still embarks on their 2-year time skip, as they realize that they're simply too weak to go up against the world government or other emperors. Their first major test comes at Fishman Island. Without Luffy's incredible strength and his conqueror's haki, the battle against Toady Jones becomes far more difficult. But things really diverge with the Punk Hazard arc, because without Luffy, the crew might just disregard the distress call entirely. Even if they get there, it's unlikely that the crew strikes up a partnership with Law, and they probably won't join his plot to take down Kaido. It's a similar situation in Dressrosa, since the Mera Mera no Mi isn't there because Ace is still alive. This means Doflamingo continues ruling Dressrosa. Rebecca never gets freed from the Don Quixote pirates, and most critically, the Straw Hats don't gain the 7 crews that would become their grand fleet. The Whole Cake Island arc is where our story effectively comes to an end, because the crew can't afford to split up into 2. All of the Straw Hats travel to Big Mom's territory to rescue Sanji, and honestly, their chances of winning aren't exactly great here. Zoro, while powerful, doesn't have the versatility Luffy had. He can't learn Future Sight in the middle of a battle, and he definitely can't tank hits from Yonko-level opponents the way Luffy could. But even if they manage to save Sanji from the Vinsmoke and Charlotte families, they definitely won't have the manpower to head on to Wano immediately afterward. And without Luffy in Gear 5, there's no scenario where the Alliance defeats Kaido, meaning that the Beast Pirates would destroy the Alliance, kill Momonosuke, and maintain their control over Wano. In this timeline, the One Piece world becomes significantly darker, as the Straw Hats become a mid-tier crew at best. They survive, they complete some of their personal goals, but they never reach Laugh Tale or find the One Piece. But now, let's explore a very different possibility. What if the Nika fruit does reincarnate, and against all odds, Sabo ends up eating it? In this timeline, after Luffy's death, the fruit reincarnates in a random location, and it eventually makes its way to Dressrosa. Doflamingo acquires the Nika fruit instead of the Mera Mera no Mi this time, and makes it the prize of the Colosseum tournament. And this is where Sabo enters our story, because in the original timeline, he regained his memories after hearing about Ace's death. Luffy was as close a brother to Sabo as Ace was, so learning that Luffy was killed at Marineford would trigger the same effect, and Sabo would travel to Dressrosa to claim his brother's Devil Fruit. Similarly, Ace and Zoro also arrive on the island, as neither of them want Luffy's Devil Fruit to fall into the hands of someone who wouldn't carry forward his will. While I'm on the subject of Ace, his journey during the 2-year time skip was pretty similar to that of the Straw Hats. Ace realizes that he can't rely on the strength of his Devil Fruit alone, and trains with Rayleigh to master haki. However, Ace doesn't join the Straw Hats as his real family is with the the Whitebeard crew, and instead he continues being a commander of the Whitebeard fleet, while Marco takes the role of captain. Okay, so back to Dressrosa, and just like in the original timeline, Sabo still wins the tournament and obtains Luffy's Devil Fruit. Meanwhile, Whitebeard's crew joins the Straw Hats, and the revolutionaries take down Doflamingo, and the Don Quixote pirates end up being arrested by the Marines. But once again, there's a problem. Does the Nika fruit accept Sabo as its wielder? We already know that Sabo opposes the world government, as he's an elite member of the Revolutionary Army, which makes him a perfect fit to be the new warrior of liberation. However, the Nika fruit doesn't fit him the way it fits Luffy. Sabo still has responsibilities and a sense of duty, so the joy and laughter that came so easily to Luffy in Gear 5 doesn't feel natural in Sabo. But remember, the fruit was passed on before Luffy awakened Gear 5, meaning that the true nature of the Gomu Gomu no Mi still remains unknown. Sabo can stretch and use rubber powers, and he combines these abilities with Ryusoken and his pipe wielding to become a deadly hand-to-hand combatant. In this version of events, the Straw Hat Pirates probably end up merging with the Revolutionary Army to honor Luffy's memory. Robin probably stays with Dragon, using her knowledge to further the cause, while Frankie fills that crucial role of a shipwright. Sanji ends up working under Ivankov, Nami becomes a navigator on missions, and Chopper joins their ranks as a doctor. But Zoro is the most interesting case here, because he goes full lone wolf, training obsessively to become the world's strongest swordsman. When the assault on Wano finally happens in this timeline, the Straw Hats aren't in the coalition, and chances are Ace joins Izo with his subdivision of the Whitebeard pirates instead. The battle is brutal and bloody, but without the Nika fruit, the coalition lacks the firepower to overcome Kaido's durability. This means that the new generation doesn't replace the old like in the original timeline, and the Beast Pirates and Big Mom Pirates still retain their influence. Meanwhile, Sabo infiltrates the revelry, and this is the most likely point for him to awaken the Nika fruit. It would even be poetic in a way if being in the same chamber as Imu was the trigger for Sabo to tap into Joy Boy's powers. But after he escapes, knowledge of the Nika fruit being in Revolutionary Army hands would make the world government go absolutely ballistic. Imu and the Five Elders mobilize all their resources, and the Revolutionary Army finds itself under attack like never before. CP0 is hunting Sabo specifically, while admirals are deployed to lead any investigations at any revolutionary bases they can find. Given that there's still so many unanswered questions surrounding the One Piece and the actual strength of the Revolutionary Army, I can't say for sure if Sabo will be able to handle all these threats. But even if he eventually masters enough of the Nika fruit's power to make a difference and the Revolutionary Army succeeds in toppling the world government, there's something fundamentally missing. Luffy brought joy and changed people through his infectious spirit. He made friends out of enemies because he genuinely cared about people. Sabo can liberate nations, but he can't heal them the way Luffy did. So while the Revolutionary Army can tear down the old system, they might not be able to build the new world in the same way Luffy would have. So both timelines point to one devastating truth: the world of One Piece needs Luffy. But what do you think? Could the Straw Hats survive under Zoro's leadership? Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another incredible One Piece theory.